Hello, my name is Hakon, and welcome back to another episode of Fighting Fantasy Gamebook playthroughs as we tackle, for the first time, Ian Livingstone's Temple of Terror, Fighting Fantasy Gamebook number 14. And also today, autumn feels like it is starting, so I'm wearing my woolen sweater again. I haven't had this out when making videos for quite a few months now, but I think it is about time to bring it out again to keep me warm as I'm playing these game books. Right. Um, as you might have noticed, if you have followed my channel, you know that I just finished Space Assassin. Luckily, it only took me 3 tries to get through it because it was a little bit tedious. I hope that Temple of Terror will be a little bit better than that. I think it will be. So, without too much further ado, I think I'll just get started. Yeah, no faffing about today, for a change. So, right. Ultra slow zooming in on the book there just to see if the camera managed to focus as we were going on as well. Right, so I've got my supplies down here. I'll just change my camera angle so I can see what I'm doing here. I've got my pens, my dice, my book, my character sheet, which I've started writing skill, stamina, and luck there. And I got my map, which is at the moment completely empty and just ready to become a map, I suppose. Now just a quick look here just to make sure that this is pretty standard fare when it comes to the rules. Space Assassin had actually some very interesting rule varieties that I thought were really good for a science fiction title, because it's a shame that it didn't follow up on that by actually writing a good book. In fact, I'm going to say one more thing about Space Assassin, actually. It seems as if more time and effort had got into making the tank battle metagame than the rest of the book, which is a bit disappointing. Anyway. Right, so we have, let's see, battles, skill, stamina, luck, standard. So skill, 1 die, and we are at 9. Stamina, 20, and a luck, a decent 11. What else do we have? Battles, standard rules. You can use luck in battles again. You couldn't do that in Space Assassin. Actually, I don't think the luck was used for anything in Space Assassin, come to think of it. At least nothing that I encountered. Stamina, provisions. Let's see, you've got 10 meals of provisions. So the usual standard rules of provisions. Each one restores 4 stamina points. Let's see, luck. Hints on play. Any potions in this one? Doesn't look like there are any potions in this one, which is just as well, I think. It's probably easier to balance a game if you don't do potions. I think so. So you may as well just dispense with them altogether. Right. Or either dispense with the provisions and keep the potion, or vice versa, I think. Anyway. Background. Let's see what's going on here. Perhaps it was because he was born during a full moon, with wolves howling around his mother's forest hut, that Molbordus's nature was evil. Perhaps it was something more sinister than that. But it is certain that after his mother abandoned him, Molbordus grew up in Darkwood Forest in the care of dark-side elves. He was taught the elves' wicked ways, and also discovered powers of his own. He could make plants wither and die simply by snapping his fingers. He could make animals obey him with his piercing gaze. The elves urged him on and helped him develop his powers so that they could teach him the arcane and evil magic of the ancient elf lords. Magic so vile and powerful that it kills unworthy users. In pursuit of such evil powers, Mulbordus grew into manhood. In order to prove to the elves that he was ready to receive the elf lord's knowledge, he first had to pass a test. He was ordered to journey south to the Desert of Skulls to find the lost city of Vatos. In the city were hidden 5 dragon artifacts, which he would have to find and collect. A simple incantation would bring the dragons to life to serve the forces of evil. Mulbordus would then instruct them to fly him back to Darkwood Forest, where a massive army would be assembling. He would receive the ancient powers and lead the hordes of chaos across Alancia in an unstoppable wave of death and destruction. It was only by a stroke of luck that these terrible plans were discovered. On the edge of Darkwood Forest lived a strange old wizard named Asromo. Something of an eccentric, he lived alone in his tower, practicing simple magic and communicating with animals and birds. He was always willing to sell small magic items, so that he could afford to have brought to him delicious cakes from all over Alancia. His sweet tooth was the cause of his only link with the outside world, as he rarely left his tower. It was therefore much to everyone's surprise that he came huffing and puffing into the village of Stonebridge. What could possibly have forced old Asromo to venture through Darkwood Forest to Stonebridge? All the dwarfs who lived there were eager to find out, and a message was sent to Gillibrand, their king. After the rigours of a recent quest, you are resting in Stonebridge, enjoying the merry company of the dwarfs. Your wounds are almost healed, and the local blacksmith has honed the blade of your sword as only dwarfs can. Resting on a porch, with your feet up on the railing, you are intrigued by the commotion in front of you in the village square. Followed by a throng of inquisitive dwarfs, Asromo climbs the stone steps to Gillibrand's house and is warmly greeted at the top by the king. The crowd falls silent when Gillibrand raises his hand, and Asromo turns to speak. You slide out of your chair and join the crowd to hear what the wizard has to say. With a glum expression, his face almost as long as his beard, Asromo relates the bad news concerning Mulbordus. The dwarfs look up apprehensively as though expecting the 5 dragons to descend upon them at any moment. He calls on them to show courage, saying, "Friends, look on the bright side. At least we are warned of our impending doom, thanks to my pet crow, who overheard the conversation between the Dark Elves and Mulbordus. What we must do now is find somebody who can reach the lost city before Mulbordus and destroy the dragon artifacts. We need a fearless young warrior who's willing to risk life and limb to save us all. Is there one among you who would volunteer?" Anyone? No? Each dwarf looks around to see if another has dared to accept the challenge. Standing there watching the worried dwarfs, you realize that there is only one thing you can do. "Me, sir. Me, sir. Pick me, sir." Yeah. With a wry smile on your face, you raise your arm in the air and offer your services. Asromo sees you and says, "Haven't I seen you somewhere before? Oh, never mind. You look like the kind of person we want. Make way for our brave volunteer. We must leave for my tower immediately. Come along, let's be off. You have a lot to learn, but I cannot teach you much until we are safely through Darkwood Forest and inside my laboratory. You hardly have time to cram your belongings into your backpack before the impatient wizard leads you all out of Stonebridge towards his tower on the southern edge of Darkwood Forest." Now turn over. For an old man, Asromo is surprisingly sprightly. You cross Red River and the ploughed fields beyond, and soon reach the edge of the forest. Asromo still doesn't stop. He takes a narrow path leading into the dark wall of trees. The light fades, branches and knotted roots obstruct the twisting path and make the walk very tiring. You ask Asromo why he seems unconcerned at the possibility of being attacked by forest monsters. He chuckles and tells you that his magic is well known and respected by all the creatures for miles around. None would dare challenge Asromo. After spending a peaceful night in the forest, You reach Asromo's tower by mid-morning the next day. You follow him up the spiral staircase to a large room at the top of the tower. Shelves, cupboards, and cabinets line the walls and are filled with bottles, jars, books, boxes, and all manners of strange artifacts. Asromo slumps down into his old oak chair, by now looking quite tired from the long journey. Does the old oak chair look tired from the long journey? Interesting. Maybe Asromo looks tired too. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a fragile pair of gold-rimmed spectacles. After placing them on his nose, he peers at you over the top of them, and you feel quite unnerved by his piercing gaze. Finally, he says, "Anybody who would hope to defeat Mulbordus must certainly know a little magic. You look bright enough to learn some, but I don't think you have time to absorb the 10 spells I would like to teach you. By the way, I would like you to know how privileged you are to learn my magic. But a crisis is a crisis. Now, let's get on with it. Which spells shall I teach you? You have the choice of Open Door, Creature Sleep, Magic Arrow, Language, Read Symbols, Light, Fire, Jump, Detect Trap, and Create Water. To make your choice, turn to 34. So, choose any of the following spells. You will be sent back to this reference after having learned a spell. As soon as you have learned 4 spells, turn to 180. You think about the task ahead before telling Asromo your choice. So now we have 4 spells to learn out of a list of 10. So we've got Open Door, Creature Sleep, Magic Arrow, Language, Read Symbols, which isn't language. Language, I presume, is spoken language. So. Light, Fire, Jump, Detect Trap, and Create Water. They all sound useful in their own way, and I'm sure that they all are used somewhere or other in the game. Let's do... I want to learn Read Symbols. I want to learn Create Water. I want to learn Open Door and Fire. So I'm going to go to each of these now. So Open Door is 12. Let's see what it says here. Asromo explains that his Open Door spell will open any locked door. It tells you the incantation necessary to cast the spell and says that it will not drain your energy too much. Only 2 stamina points will be lost each time you use it. That's an interesting mechanic. So the that's cost of 2 stamina points. Okay. And then it is Create Water, 367. Asromo explains that his Create Water spell will fill your hands with drinking water each time you cup them together. It tells you that the incantation necessary to cast the spell and says that, curiously, this spell requires no energy at all to cast. So that is free to use. Okay. Okay. And then I wanted Read Symbols, which is 391. Asromo explains that his Read Symbols spell will allow the user to read any runes or magic symbols. It tells you the incantation necessary to cast the spell and says that virtually no energy is required to cast it. Only 1 stamina point is lost each time it is used. Okay. And finally there's Fire, and that is 264. Asromo explains that his Fire spell can be used to either make a defensive wall around the caster or simply to ignite a torch or lantern with your fingertips. It tells you the incantation necessary to cast the spell and says that the energy lost when casting the spell will vary according to the intensity of the fire. It will use either 1 or 2 stamina points each time. So 1, 2, 2. So a high stamina might be a good idea here because that's also your magic score as well in a way. Okay. Maybe I should start writing a map as well now. So I went from 1 to 34. So 1 is the beginning. I'm inside shot there. Yes, good. And then I went to 34, which has branching off it. All these other ones. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's, yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 12, 58, 136. Not so important really to note these down. I'll just have a complete map now. 2, 2, 3, 2, 6, 4, 301, 342, and 367. So okay, because these all go back to there as well. Okay, I'm going to make a note of all of those, and then I'm going to 180. The old wizard looks at you solemnly and says, "Every minute is vital. You must begin your journey immediately. Without doubt, Malbordus will learn of your mission to thwart him and may send an assassin or two after you. My crow will lead you as far as Catfish River. From there you can either take a river vessel to Port Blacksand and then a sailing ship south, or journey overland to the Desert of Skulls. A grim task is ahead of you, but our thoughts will be with you. Asromo leads you back down the spiral staircase and out into the open. Suddenly he gives a shrill whistle. A large crow immediately swoops down from the top of the tower and settles on his shoulder. Now, Crow, guide our friend as far as Catfish River and make sure you keep a good lookout. The last thing we want is an ambush on our own doorstep." You shake hands with Asromo and reassure him that you will destroy the dragons of Vatos before Malbordus can attain this evil goal. He smiles and hands you a pouch containing 25 gold pieces. So we got gold 25. He then commands his crow to fly south. The crow squawks and flies off. You hurry after it, turning just once to wave goodbye to old Asromo. Walking through the tall grasses, a shiver runs down your spine at the thought of Malbordus's assassins coming after you. You travel steadily south, only deviating twice to circumvent danger spotted by the crow. 3 hours later you arrive at the banks of Catfish River, at the point where it is spanned by a rope bridge. An old barge is moored to a jetty beneath the bridge, and you see several rough-looking characters unloading sacks. If you wish to cross the bridge, turn to 23. If you wish to buy a passage on the barge to Port Blacksand, turn to 213. So now is the choice really, am I going by water or by land? I'm sure they both have their sort of pros and cons. I'm a little bit more of a landlubber, I think, when it comes to these sorts of games. So I think maybe I want to go overland. I'm sure there are more perils there if you go overland. So anyway. So we have 23 bridge or 213 barge. I'm going to go with the bridge. So you watch the crow fly back towards the Asromo's tower before stepping onto the rope bridge. The crew of the barge are not concerned by his sudden appearance and continue with their various tasks. After crossing the bridge, you continue south across the scrubland. After an hour or so, you see smoke rising in the east. If you wish to investigate the source of the smoke, turn to 316. If you'd rather continue south, turn to 159. So 316, smoke. I'm going to investigate the smoke. You soon discover that the smoke is rising from the burning roof of a wooden hut. Two dark elves in their familiar black hooded cloaks are firing flaming arrows at the hut. Suddenly, a man appears at the door, forced out by the choking smoke. Armed with a sword and shield, you watch him run towards his attackers. Before you can help, he is cut down by two arrows. The dark elves step out from behind cover and walk towards their dead victim. If you wish to attack the dark elves, turn to 113. If you would rather not get involved and head south, turn to 285. 285, let's go south, or 113, which is attack. Skill 9, stamina 20. Probably best not to get involved. I'm going to go south, 285. Although the scrubland is quite barren, you are surprised to see a patch of ground which is totally black. There is a smell of decay in the air, which appears to be coming from the black patch. Holding your nose, you walk over to inspect the patch and see that there is a bronze medallion lying in its center with the letter M etched deeply into it. Could the medallion have been dropped accidentally by Moldborders? If you wish to pick up the medallion, turn to 226. If you'd rather leave it where it is lying and walk south, turn to 159. So, 226. Now, there are a few possibilities here. The medallion is in a location where there's been a kind of fire of some sort, or maybe a fireball spell, something like that. But is it also possible that the medallion is the what caused the fire? If you're wearing it, maybe you spontaneously combust. I don't know. It all seems a bit too... I'm going to pick it up anyway and see what happens. I'm going to go to 226. You step onto the black patch and pick up the bronze medallion. Although it feels cold to the touch, you see with horror that your flesh on your hand is burning. Test your luck. I think I was onto something there. So a luck 11 and I rolled 3. Luck is down to 10. So test luck, and we have 3, 2, 3, unlucky, or 1, 2, 7, lucky. You drop the burning medallion onto the sand and see a large letter M painfully branded on the palm of your hand. Fortunately, it is not your sword arm, which is affected. Lose 1 stamina point. So that's stamina minus 1. Realizing that Moldborders must be ahead of you, you continue south as quickly as possible. Turn to 159. So it looks like the medallion is not something you should be messing with. So I'm going to put a little red square around that and say do not do that again. The day wears on and you make good progress over the flat scrubland. When it is finally too dark to walk any further, you find shelter in a cluster of boulders. Roll 1 die. So, 1d6. If you roll a 1, turn to 398. If you roll any other number, turn to 15. So I'm going to put 15 there, or over there we put 398. So that is 1, and that is 2, 2, 6. So let's roll the die, and we roll a 4, so that is not a 1. So I'm going to paragraph 15. The night passes without incident. You wake at dawn feeling refreshed. Add 2 stamina points. So now I'm back to 20. You sling your backpack onto your shoulders and set off again. Turn to 305. So that is plus 2 stamina. And then we go to 305. Up ahead in the sky, you see something flying towards you. As it gets closer, you see that it is a creature with the body of a large bird of prey, but the upper torso of a woman, also known as a harpy. It begins to emit a piercing shriek, which you instantly recognize. You frantically plug your ears with cloth that you rip from your shirt, so as not to hear the mesmerizing call of the dreaded harpy. They're a bit like sirens, really. If you can and wish to cast a magic arrow spell, turn to 184. Otherwise, you must fight the harpy with your sword. So we have our first possibility of using a spell. So that's 184, and that is magic arrow. I don't have that, so I'm going to go here to 75, and that is fight. The vicious harpy swoops down to attack you with its razor-sharp talons. And it's got 8, 5. Harpy. So, first battle of the day. So, I've got 9, 20, which isn't that great, actually, a skill of 9. Not in an Ian Livingstone book, anyway. Right, I've got 1 skill point advantage, so she rolls 10, I roll a 5, so first hit is on me. Harpy rolls a 6, I roll a 6, so the harpy takes 2 damage. Harpy rolls 9, I roll a 4, 16. Harpy rolls 8, I roll 6, 14. Harpy rolls 5, I roll 11. Harpy is down to 1, and finally, Harpy rolls 12. I roll 8, I'm down to 12 stamina. Harpy rolls 10, I roll 8, so I'm down to 10 stamina. This isn't very good, is it? Harpy rolls 8, I roll 10, so then the Harpy is dead, but I'm down to 10 stamina. Right, if you win, set off south again, keeping a watchful eye out for other hostile creatures. Turn to 86. I suppose I'll make my map rather linear now to make lots of space for other stuff that could happen over there on the ocean voyage, if you choose that, or when I choose that, and another playthrough. I'm sure I won't win it this time. Not with 9 skill anyway. Yeah, but before I go south, of course, I will eat some provisions. So I'm going to eat 2. Get up to 18, and then I go to 86. As you walk along, a leather pouch suddenly drops out of the sky onto the ground in front of you. You open the pouch and find a note inside, written by Asromo. It says, "Friend, I have learned of bad news. Volbordus is already ahead of you. But look up, for help is at hand to enable you to catch up." Obeying his instruction, you look up and first think another harpy is above you, but then you see that it is a giant eagle gliding through the air. The eagle circles above you and then lands with effortless ease close by. Pleased that old Asromo is concerned for your life, you climb onto the back of the eagle. You are soon riding through the air, traveling quickly towards the Desert of Skulls. However, your good fortune is quickly brought to an end when you hear an ominous screeching above you. Like a giant diving gannet, a hideous pterodactyl swoops down to attack the eagle. If you are carrying a bow and arrow, turn to 132, I suppose you can get that from the Dark Elves. If you can and wish to cast a magic arrow spell, turn to 36. If you do not possess a missile weapon, turn to 363. So we have the following options. So 132, so that's 132, bow and arrow. And you have 36, again, magic arrow. Or if you don't have any of those, then you go to 363. No missile weapon. 363. Could throw some gold at it or something. You draw your sword and try to cut down the eagle's fearsome attacker, but the pterodactyl stays out of your reach and you are unable to help in the battle between the two flying creatures. Resolve the battle between the eagle and the pterodactyl, and that doesn't look good for the eagle, which means it doesn't look good for me. So the pterodactyl, the eagle has 6, 11, the pterodactyl has 8, 9. I suppose I should roll for the pterodactyl first. So the pterodactyl has a 2 skill point advantage. That is not good at all. Would I wanted to use a fire on it or something, but oh well. So pterodactyl rolls an 8, eagle rolls a 10, that is a draw. Pterodactyl rolls 8, eagle 3, eagle is down to 9. Pterodactyl 6, eagle 7, eagle is down to 7. 7 and 4, eagle is down to 5. 4 and 6, draw. 3 and 7, finally the eagle hits. I presume I can't use luck in this one. 6 versus 5, eagle is down to 3. 10 versus 5, eagle is down to 1. 9 versus 6, and eagle is dead. And so 6, 11 versus 8, 9. And then it is a win or lose. So 2, 42, a win. 48, a lose, I'll call that. And that is 48. The body of the eagle shudders as it receives its death blow. You drop out of the sky like a stone and land fatally on the ground below. Your adventure is over. So the end. So it seems that having a missile weapon to help you in your fight against the pterodactyl is essential. So that means you either have to attack the Dark Elves so you can get a bow and arrow, or to have magic missile or magic weapon, magic arrow spell, magic missile from AD&D or Dungeons and Dragons, of course. So I'm thinking that the correct path here, quite likely, is actually to go with attacking the Dark Elves to get the bow and arrow. Might actually be a good idea. I might try that next time, unless I try the sea journey instead. But that was actually the end of a relatively short session of Fighting Fantasy Game Book Play today, but I think it's good to have a little bit of variety there and not always have my long sort of 1 hour plus episodes of playing these games. Sometimes it's nice to have something a little bit shorter, and I think you would agree. So if you enjoyed this, well, thank you for watching, and if you did enjoy it, please like, share, subscribe, join me on Patreon, all those things. Leave a comment if you like as well, and I will see you in the next episode where I will play more Temple of Terror. Bum, ba, da, bum.